No, I didn't change my house. It's just a different angle. But what's going on, guys? It's your boy Jason back at it again with another video. It's been a while since I uploaded uh, on my video, so what better way than to react a geography now video? I promise you there's going to be better videos coming up soon. But we got the United Kingdom, guys. The United Kingdom, a big old one. That's why it's 50 minutes long. So let's make this intro short because I'm going to be here for quite a long time. So anyways, if you guys want to see more Geography Now videos, let me know in the comment section. I do like learning about geography, so yeah. Hopefully, if I'm making two videos at once. I'm doing this, and then I'm making a soccer recap, and then I'm doing the CONCACAF. So, ladies and gentlemen, we could be seeing a triple upload, if not a double upload, here on the ItzJason channel for the first time since like what, 7 years, probably 5 years. So yeah, let's just get started with this. If you guys want to see more though, let me know. Hit that like button and subscribe as well. It makes my day so much better. And yeah, let's just get started with this monstrosity of a long video. United Kingdom in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey Jugger peeps, as you know, I'm American and I just got my Anglophone family reunion invite, so I guess I have to show up to be polite and all.
Yeah, I saw this man's thing on Instagram. Bro was like everywhere in the United Kingdom. But while this video is continuing, this is like 50 minutes. What I do know about the United Kingdom is the empire that the sun never falls down. One of the largest empires, one of the oldest countries,
not selling out if it's your brand.
the
Well, here I
colonies,
am
Jamestown,
in the big crumpet,
Roanoke,
the big uck, the land of kings,
Australia,
queens, and in-betweens.
yeah,
At one point, a
St. James's Cross.
land area was under their rule. Of course, such a
No,
story
St.
came
James's
with
Cross
lots of
is-
complicated
yeah,
chapters.
that.
And when it comes to
Then
complication,
this is
usually it's best to have a person
Scotland
from the country
and
come along
I
and
don't
help
know.
out. And for this episode,
Let's
I
just
could
watch
not
this
think of
video.
anyone better to speak on behalf of the UK than my go-to Brit. Many of you already know him. Come on in, ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Mr. J. Foreman.
Hi, hello. Thank you so much. I've always wanted to be on.
Oh, I
Geography
may.
Now.
Why
tell
couldn't he
how
get
we
the
met.
I think I
Sidemen?
started
This
watching
would have been like
Geography Now
an
back in the Belgium days.
a
You
great
accidentally stole it from an
collaboration.
episode of Map Men, and now we're the
Simon, Geography Now.
Yeah, I stole your map.
I've probably stolen more from elsewhere.
By the way, Jay, a lot has probably happened over the years. What have you been up to?
This?
Oh, yeah. You made something.
Yeah, I made one of these.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
he's really good.
Yeah, so
And
let's
Barb's
talk about your
and
country now.
all of his
Shall
friends
sit.
getting old,
We.
That is how we
starting
talk.
families. Must
So,
suck.
the UK today is
But you
very
know what,
different from
guys?
what it
I
used
did
to
see a
be.
new
No, we're not referencing
intro
how
for
the island
Geography
used to be
Now.
connected to the rest
So
of the
that's pretty
continental Europe
interesting.
via Doggerland.
And no, we're not referencing
Or maybe
the
I
Mesolithic
just
Aaronsburgian
haven't watched
hunter-gatherers.
this
Or the Neolithic
for a
agriculturalists
while,
and enormous stone
and
transporting and
then
solstice measuring peoples.
No, we're referencing a time later
Yeah,
on when the entire
I just
island was
realized
just a
that.
mess of clans, chiefdoms, opposing monarchs, and outside monarchs trying to come in and out-monarch the said monarchs.
It wasn't until much later that the country actually completed unifying everything on the island of Great Britain, plus Northern Ireland, don't forget Northern Ireland, and all the overseas
yeah, they used to have
territories, both the
Ireland
overseas territories
too,
and
guys.
counterdependencies. You could probably forget the counterdependencies.
Yeah.
Isles of Man, look at that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
And
Guernsey.
you guys have a town called T.O.
Yeah.
I
There's a
went
place
there.
near here called Trotter's Bottom.
I went to Bitfield. Oh, and of course you can't forget.
Aw,
Bad
come on,
Rider,
guys.
Rodriguez, go get a control,
Keep
Kansas
it-
City, go, go, go.
Very good, excellent.
Cheers.
Actually, speaking of places in Britain,
Such a
did you
goofy
know that
name,
we've
but
got
come
some
on,
of the
guys, let's
weirdest
keep
and
it
hardest to pronounce
PG-13
places in the
or
world?
PG.
Okay. Leicester,
PG-13,
Ruislip,
because
Chiswick, Landfall.
People have seen the people's own version of Jason.
Llanelli.
Mature,
Llanelli.
Oh yeah,
but
that's Welsh.
I'm not
isn't it?
mature in this
Oh,
channel,
those
so let's
Welshies.
keep it
Those
PG,
Welshies,
guys.
you can't trust them.
Well, in any case, let's look at the map, shall we?
First of all, the main chunk of what makes up the UK is Great Britain, located off the northwestern coast of the continental
Bro, I want
mainland of
water.
Europe, north of
So you
France,
know what?
separated by
I'm
the
gonna
English
drink this
Channel, and
temperature
east of
room
Ireland,
water.
separated by the Irish
there's
Sea
no
to
water
the
in the
east,
fridge.
as well as the North Sea, and to the North Atlantic. The island of Great Britain is made up of three constituent countries: England, which holds about 84% of the country's population; Scotland, which holds about 8%; and Wales at about 1.5%. From there, they also administer Northern
What's the
Ireland,
rest?
which doesn't exactly have an official political title. Some say it's a constituent country, some say it's a region or province, but to this day, it lies across the Irish
Honestly,
Sea
I
on
feel
the
like
northern section of the
Northern
island of
Ireland
Ireland, making it their
belongs
largest land
to
border with
England.
any country.
Like,
Outside
historically,
of
it's
Great
been
Britain and
like
Northern
that.
Ireland, though, the UK has 3
So
crown
I guess I would
dependencies
say
and
that
14
if
overseas
it's not a
territories, 12 of
country.
which are small islands in the Caribbean, Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans, and 2 of them, Gibraltar and the sovereign bases of Akrotiri and
Oh,
Dikelia,
yeah,
are small
Gibraltar, I
areas
just
attached to
remember
the
that.
larger shared land masses
And
of
then
Spain and
Cyprus,
Cyprus.
but
Keep in mind the crown dependencies
Cyprus
of
is
the
a
Isle of
mess.
Man, Guernsey, and Jersey are technically not considered part of the UK, but are still subject to the UK's defense and international representation. And finally, the British Antarctic
So they're
Territory
like
and its
a
main base at
different
Rothera
country.
is a section of Antarctica that does not have any actual sovereign status, as all countries are subject to the Antarctic Treaty, which states no one can colonize the continent. The entire domain that falls under the UK's
And then,
sovereignty
like,
spans across 9
countries
time
just
zones.
break
Anyway,
the
back to
rule.
the main island. This is where things take a twist. First off, keep in mind, each of the constituent countries of Scotland and Wales, as well as whatever you want to label Northern Ireland, has their own parliament system with a head called a First Minister. Whereas England does not have its own separate parliament, as they just use the same country capital's Westminster Palace building as the meeting place for all English elected constituent officials, since it's pretty much always been the spot used for them anyway, and they see no need to complicate things further. On paper, England has 48 counties, Scotland has 32 council areas, Wales has 22 principal areas, and Northern Ireland has 6 counties. However, keep in mind that many of these are disputed, people don't pay attention to them, and many might just refer to their traditional
Man.
areas, which is another topic. In any case, the capital
Everyone's
and
just
largest
forgetting
city and
about
largest city in
Northern
Western
Ireland.
Europe is London. After that, it's Manchester at number 2 and Birmingham at number 3. Also, keep in mind the city
What
of
was your
London,
lot of
or
jokes
the city
about
of London
Birmingham being
Corporation,
like
has its own separate government, which is independent
the
from the rest
Jackson,
of the country.
Mississippi
This means that the Lord Mayor
of
of
the
London
US.
is technically
Just
the highest-ranking official in the UK
lots
after
of
the monarch,
dust,
even though the city
it's a
of London in
mess,
itself is just
trash
one small
everywhere.
part of Greater London. London alone has 4 of the top 10 busiest airports in the country: Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted,
By the way, I've
and
never
Luton.
been to
Whereas
Jackson,
outside of the
Mississippi, so
London
I'm
area,
just
Manchester
making an
International
estimate,
comes
get
in at
us
number 3, and
from
Edinburgh International at
past
number 6.
people's
Just on the
experience.
east side of England lies
So,
the port of
could be
Felixstowe,
wrong,
the largest and busiest
but
shipping port
at
of
the
the
same time,
country.
it
The
is
country has a
Jackson,
very
Mississippi.
extensive road and
And
rail
Mississippi
network,
just
and
doesn't
otherwise
look like a
London's
state that I
Waterloo and
trust.
Victoria are the largest train stations, and the completion of the Channel in 1994 officially connected the UK to the rest of mainland Europe via France.
Except
Channel.
literally no one calls it the Channel ever.
I call it the Channel.
No, you don't. It's the Channel Tunnel, or the Eurostar, or Le Shuttle, or anything but Channel. No one says Channel.
Calling it Channel.
I
So
feel like
as you
everyone
can see,
calls
when
it
it
the
comes to the administrative
Eurostar.
divisions, the UK is quite possibly
it
the
sounds so
biggest nightmare
fancy.
in the world.
And keep in mind, we didn't even mention all the other confusing administrative levels, like combined authority areas, metropolitan counties, lieutenancy areas, or lieutenancy areas, depending how you want to pronounce it, parishes, wards. It's a lot.
Yeah. To help a
Parishes,
little bit more on
bro, that looks
understanding
like
on
a
how all these
whole-
things actively work, we could
That's a-
mention the
that's a
650
mess, bro.
constituency system, in which 650 small sections of the country get represented in the parliament with a representative.
It's so complicated. The way we do things in this country is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it is massively broke, still don't fix it.
Anyway, off of that note, the UK has a bicameral legislature consisting of the House of Commons and the House of Lords.
So the House of Commons is the one that you see on the telly, and the House of Lords is the big room next door where they wear robes, and it's weird.
And the Whigs too, right?
Wigs sometimes,
And
yeah.
they're appointed.
So there are 4 ways you can get into the House of Lords. One of them is by giving lots of money to the governing party, and then they sort of... As a
By the way,
favor,
this
make
video
it
might be the
but that's
first
not
one
officially
to
how
be
it works.
uploaded. The
Go
soccer
away.
one takes time to edit.
The other
And
way is if you're an expert in
ladies and
something
gentlemen,
like
it's
the law,
3:33, and I
the
don't
arts,
feel
the-
like
the other
editing
way
that
is if you
much all
happen to be
night, so
born
I
with
might just
a dad
edit this
who's
one,
already a
go to
member
bed,
of the
and
peer.
So it can be
edit the
hereditary.
It can be
soccer, even
hereditary.
though
And you're allowed to become a member of the House of Lords. as long as
LAFC
you
and
have any
Lyon
older
played
brothers.
today.
Isn't it insane? Some British place names, just from looking at the name, you can tell which part
So
of the
I might
country
be
it's in.
late.
So, for example, if it's got
This
a
is room
Celtic
temperature
name,
water.
which
I've
means
never
it has
drank that,
words like
but
Tre, Loch, Bryn,
my throat's
Aber,
just
that
having
means you're likely to
funerals
find
right
it
now,
in
so
Wales.
I
Or if
really
it's got
need
a
it.
Viking suffix, such as Thwaite, Thorpe, Kirk, or B, that means you're
Oh,
likely to
yeah, I
find it in
remember
North. And
the
then there are
nomadic
Anglo-Saxon place names,
invasion
such as
of
Ing, Ham, Bury,
England
Port, and so on and so on.
So
changed
you can
the
actually
English
tell
language
which group of
forever.
people influence which area based off of the suffix of the name of the place.
Sort of, although that was probably more true hundreds of years ago, and now these days all the names get mixed up and they come up with
Because
new
I'm not
place
in the
names all
rule
the
of
time.
thirds shot. It
Gotta
has to be
Toronto's
like
bottom.
this.
So all of that brings
then
us to
the
the
video
obvious
shows
topic. The UK
good.
is a constitutional monarchy.
Technically, the king is in charge, and it's his country and it's his laws, but how this practically works is he's just a ceremonial figurehead, and it's actually the government and the Prime Minister that make all the actual decisions.
But he could also step in if he wanted to.
Yeah, in theory, he could
Thanks,
step in and say, I
English
don't like
Revolution.
this law, but he knows full well that if he tried
Yeah,
that, there'd be an instant
still remember
revolution
my
and he'd
stuff
still
from
fucking
AP Euro,
You got
guys.
another Oliver Cromwell.
I should have taken AP US
Jay
history
did a lot of videos on this type of
after
stuff. We'll
what
just put
happened
annotations.
this
Just
year,
check out
but
his videos. Long story short,
I never
it
did,
wasn't
and I
always
took
this
bio,
great.
and
In fact,
that
the
was a
UK's
mess.
history is
But
more
hey,
like
guys,
the combined histories of
we're
the
taking
three
chemistry
constituent
next year,
countries of
so
Scotland, England, and Wales, plus a little bit of
we
Northern
got
Ireland,
this,
but that's a
guys.
whole
Come
other
on,
thing.
get
That's the
in.
thing.
Right,
Get
even though
in.
the UK is a country, like the bits that make it up are also called countries.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
no
yeah.
simple way
Let's
to
see if
condense
Gyrus
the whole
is here.
history.
Let's try
Or
anyway.
Jane does
Ancient beaker
360.
culture.
Celts arrived. And
Only
split
the
into
streets
Britain.
will never
Gaels
forget
and
about
Picts.
that
Romans
name.
failed to conquer the Picts. They built Hadrian's Wall.
Romans leave. In come the Germanic tribes.
Scotland splits into 4 kingdoms.
Egbert becomes the first Saxon king.
And then the Anglo-Saxons split into 7 kingdoms.
Anglo-Saxon, by the way, is where the name England comes from. Cornwall falls to Wessex, but keeps its language and culture.
Meanwhile, Wales was made up of many kingdoms, but the largest are Gwynedd, Powys, and Dyfed.
Vikings come in, raid much of the Hebrides
Is that,
Island and Isle land.
Scots and Picts joined to
Wrexham?
create the kingdom of Alba.
Danish Vikings
Logo?
come in and create the
I don't think it
Danelaw.
was,
This is
but it
also how
looked
lots
like
of
it.
Danish words crept their way back into modern English, such as leg, window, and yes, even ransack, which was exactly what the Danes were doing.
Anglo-Saxon Ethelsin fights against them and becomes the first king of England. Meanwhile, in the 11th century, Griffith ap Llewellyn becomes the only king that ruled over all
No,
of
it's
Wales,
not.
but then it is quickly
That's-
killed by
that's-
one of his
that's
own
not
people.
Wrexham.
William of Normandy takes over
That's some,
England,
like-
and thus begins the Norman
I don't
dynasty.
even
Angevin
know. That's
Empire via
some,
the House
like,
of Plantagenets begins.
Crusade.
cricket
Richard
team
Lionheart
jersey.
plays a huge role in this.
King John is terrible, and then his barons force him to sign the Magna
the Magna
Carta.
Carta.
1284. Edward
We
I
learned
conquers
that in
Wales
AP
and
Euro,
spreads
guys.
into England, but they maintain their
Let's
language
go.
and culture.
It's like
Alexander
the
III
first
of
thing in
Scotland
the
dies,
English
and 14
Constitution
rivals
or
claim
whatever.
succession to the throne.
14th century, Charles IV of France dies with no heir. So
Oh, yeah,
Edward I
creates the
pretended to be
parliament
king,
or
but the
something,
French were
yeah.
like, hell no, and elected Prince Philip of Valois, and hence began the 100 Years' War.
Yes, this is when the Joan of Arc thing happened.
Edward III dies, many claims
Yeah.
to the throne rise up, and thus begins the War of the Roses.
16th
I'm
century
getting
Tudor
AP
dynasty
Euro
begins, and
vibes
thus
over
all
here.
that
I'm
crazy
getting
Henry
like
VIII
the
stuff goes down.
flashbacks, the
Now the
good old
history, the
memories
most beheaded
of
died,
Curtin
most
here,
beheaded
middle
survived.
part
It's cute
Jason.
because it rhymes.
Meanwhile,
Brilliant.
in 1585, the British take their first stab at colonizing what is now Virginia in the USA, which eventually evolved into the 13 colonies.
Meanwhile, the East India Company
Oh,
begins
13
shortly after.
colonies.
Elizabeth I's rule leads to the Mary Queen of Scots thing and the Spanish Armada.
17th century, Elizabeth I dies. Closest relative is James VI of Scotland, and he becomes ruler, hence joining Scotland and England for the first time, becoming the first monarch to rule over the entire island of Great Britain.
Conspirators try to assassinate him and blow up Parliament, aka the Guy Fawkes thing.
Charles I and Parliament have tensions, and thus begins the English
Oh,
Civil
yeah.
War.
And he
Oh,
gets
yeah,
chopped off.
Cromwell becomes Lord Protector after dissolving the monarchy, but after he dies, the monarchy is restored with Charles II.
Man, you guys really went back to that monarchy thing fast. Like, in the 17th century, Scotland unsuccessfully
when they
attempts
had
colonies in
the-
Panama and Nova Scotia, and it has an
what was
economic
it
crisis.
called?
1707, the union between
I think they
Scotland
already
and
said,
England is
but
finalized.
yeah, they
Queen
had the
Anne
like
dies, ending the
dictator.
House of Stuart, and in comes the House of Hanover.
Wars, and more expensive wars. Great Britain taxes colonies to try and make up for the debt.
Colonies aren't happy, which leads to the War of Independence for America.
The Industrial Revolution.
Let's just pass
is like
over
the
that
next
whole
episode,
chapter.
guys.
Captain James
America.
Cook swings by Australia, New Zealand, and hey,
Captain
let's
Cook.
establish some more penal colonies.
Napoleonic Wars.
East India Company is met with revolt and leads to a full takeover of India in 1858.
Berlin
Nice.
Conference
Sounds like
split up
Britain, to
areas
be
that
honest.
European powers
Portugal
would
should have
administer.
had it, guys.
World War I,
They had
1921, land
little
grabs from the crumbling
territories
German and Ottoman
before these
empires
guys.
resulted in the height of the territorial rule for the UK.
1922, Ireland breaks away.
World War II, the whole Winston Churchill and the Battle of the Blitz stuff happened.
Afterwards, one by one, the former territories got their independence.
The Commonwealth of
Let's
Nations
go
was established.
decolonization,
Paramilitary violence in Northern Ireland.
globalization.
Joins the European Economic Community, which was like a predecessor to the EU.
Monetarism policies are enacted under the Margaret Thatcher years.
Falkland Islands War.
2008 global financial crisis followed by a Scottish referendum ending
It's
in
a
remaining
long
part
history,
of the UK.
like
2016,
rundown.
the UK votes at nearly 52%
It's like the
to
longest
leave
ever.
the EU.
Queen Elizabeth II, longest reigning British monarch, passes away. Her son King Charles III is coronated.
Crowned.
So there you go, an oversimplified outline of the thousands of years of like 70, 20, 10% British, Scottish, Welsh history, all jammed into a cheesy YouTube skit with minimal props and slapstick humor.
The thing you'll hear most often from people who love the royal family is how good it is for tourism, despite the fact that if we got rid of the monarchy, we could turn Buckingham Palace into a really expensive museum.
But then there wouldn't be a monarch to like fantasize about the fairy tale monarch, princess, king,
Nah,
queen
you gotta
stuff.
stop,
you know?
bro.
It's like,
But then maybe King
Nobody
Charles
cares
would be
about the
training
king
at a
and
different
queen,
job
bro.
as a chartered quantity
yeah, but
surveyor.
it takes
The
away
king-
the whole fantasy. aspect.
nobody likes
You think
the
of
king, bro.
monarchs as,
Everyone, like,
magical
memes
creatures.
it.
That's the
That's it.
Despite an increasing
Nobody
number
talks
of
about him
Republicans,
like,
which
oh,
means
he did
people
this.
vying for a republic
So
against the idea
let's
of the monarchy, most
congratulate
Brits are
him,
okay
I
with the royal
guess.
family. It has a unique
I
role
don't know,
as
that's
both
just coming
representing
from an
longevity
American,
and tradition
so-
and tabloid fodder.
I don't know. I really do think it does have a lot
Really
to do with
isn't
tourism.
that,
and,
like-
and then we come in.
Whereas when Brits go
Believable.
on holiday within our own country,
Shouldn't
we
trust
like to
me.
go to the seaside.
Not a
Places like
reliable
Southend.
source.
The longest pleasure pier in the world. And speaking of which, we got a guy who kind of saved a lot of people over there, and he's going to do the famous places segment. Come on in, Mr. Tommy Boy.
So, other than Southend Pier, the longest pleasure pier in the world, which I did save by peeing on when it was on fire, true story, other places you need to visit are London, obviously, Central
Such a weird- this is like-
Buckingham Palace, the London Eye, Tower
Every
of London,
English
Tower
guy is
Bridge,
just gonna
House
come
of
over here and
Parliament,
replace
Big Ben,
the
red telephone
Barb's
boxes, of which
friends
many have
and-
now been repurposed, police
Yeah.
boxes for you
Should be
Doctor Who
interesting.
fans. Stonehenge, see Henge, which
Maybe
is even a
Hannah's
henge,
gonna come
Silbury
and then
Hill,
Keith.
the Royal Ascot and its many funny hats, Bath with its
Wembley.
Roman baths, the Jurassic Coast, including Durdle Door, the Ammonites and Fossil Beach in Lyme
Oh,
Regis,
cool.
Windsor Castle, the Shambles in York, the Peak and Lake districts, the Eden Project. Next, we're going to do Wales. Many castles, including Carnarvon, Conwy, Caerphilly, Cardiff, Snowdonia, with Mount Snowdon,
Cardiff
which you can
City.
actually go up on a train. Penryn's Lake Quarry, the underground
looks fun.
trampoline park in Cleckwood,
Okay, I
Dobby
see
the
that
House
trampoline
Elf's
park.
Grave, where people keep leaving their socks. So next, we're going to go up to Scotland. First, you have to start with Edinburgh, with its Royal Mile, Calton Hill, the castles, St Kilda, Orkney and Lewis for Neolithic stone circles, Shetland for ponies, Isle of Skye, Loch Ness, what I personally think is the coolest thing in the whole of the UK, Fingal's Cave. It's on the island of Staffa. You can walk in the cave, you can walk on it, on top. There are puffins everywhere, and when you're on the boat, there are whales and dolphins swimming next to you. We jump across to Northern Ireland,
was
which
getting
you can
excited
actually
like a
see from
child over
Scotland,
here.
fun fact. And we start off with the Giant's Causeway, Carrick-a-Reed Rope Bridge, the Titanic Museum, the Dark Hedges, and
That
now
bridge-
for the
that's the-
overseas
that's the bridge
territories.
that
the
Shrek
Gibraltar
and
Rock
Donkey
with its
went on.
Barbary apes, Jersey, where you can see some cows, Guernsey. Guernsey and Alderney, some of the most fortified islands on Earth, and go to the Isle of Man to see
Oh, I
the
thought he was gonna,
TT
like, make a
motorbike
Road to
races.
Shaw
I mean,
reference.
overall, I'm so glad I got to do this trip.
missed
It was so much fun.
opportunity,
It was
guys,
so much
come
fun.
on.
Had so
We
much
went
fun.
to Fingal's Cave.
Whew, that was a lot to process, and we didn't even scratch the surface.
Or the scratchy bottom.
But alas, we must move
I
on
hate
to the
these
next
guys.
segment of this ever-complicated nation, the physical geography.
That was a long first segment.
Now, when discussing the landscape of the UK, most people, you know, they just kind of like
This is
to
no
fall into
wonder
the
why
typical
this is
hilly
50
green
minutes,
pastures,
guys.
or the Scottish Highlands, and just like a
If
lot
you
of
guys
places.
watch 50
And
minutes
yes,
of
that does
this
apply to much
video
of the
of
country, but if
me,
we're going to be technical,
guys,
you can also include coconut tree-lined atolls.
I want a
frozen
hug.
glaciers,
I want,
erupting
like, I'll give you, like,
volcanoes, beaches
money.
with
I'll
penguins,
give
and much
whatever,
more.
guys.
Let's look at the map to explain.
The fact that you watched
First of
50
all,
minutes
the
of
main
me
part
is
of the country,
crazy.
Great Britain and Northern Ireland, are located in the western parts of the Eurasian plate, with many mini fault lines feeding through, especially in the island of Great Britain. The most general way to divide the island is with the T's X line, which is an imaginary diagonal boundary that separates the lowlands with the highland regions in the north and west. This geological formation is also what contributes to some hot spring areas along the line, most notably in areas like Derbyshire and the city of Bath. The most notable fault line, though, would be the Great Glen Fault up in Scotland, which splits like a scar through the Scottish Highlands, which are the highest part of the country and also hold the tallest peak of the country, Ben Nevis. This fault line also creates long, deep rift lakes like the famous Loch Ness, which is the most voluminous lake in the entire country, holding nearly double the amount of water in
guess
all the
the
lakes
Loch
of
Ness
England and
monster
Wales
was
combined.
found
If you
there.
want to find the lake with the largest surface area, though, you'd have to go to Northern Ireland and visit Loch Ness. If you want to find the longest river, though, many people might mistakenly say it's the Thames, which, although it is an important river that goes through London, it is not the longest. The longest is actually the Severn River that starts in the Highlands of Wales and meanders through England and empties into Bristol Bay. In any case, if we want to be completely well-rounded on the sovereign domain of the UK, you could include everything from the tropical beaches of Caribbean island territories like Anguilla and Turks and Caicos. Montserrat Island actually had an enormous volcanic eruption in 1995 that destroyed the entire southern part of the island, including the former capital Plymouth. The South Georgia and South Sandwich Islands
dang.
are the coldest parts of the
Kinda
UK's
sad.
territories, with permanent glaciers and protected wildlife breeding grounds. The South Sandwich Islands are pretty volcanically active too, especially Mount Belinda,
Don't make my hair
Mount
look
Curry,
good.
and Mount Michael, which create an eerie sight of fire and ice when they erupt. In any case, these are all just examples that show the range of what you can naturally find in areas that fall within the sovereignty of the UK.
Now, despite being a nation smaller in area than the country of Guinea in West Africa, the UK today stands with the 6th largest national economy by nominal GDP in the world.
We used to be number 5. Many factors attributed to this prosperity.
Oh,
growth,
dang.
such
Who
as
beat
the
them?
industrial
Who beat them?
revolution,
Was
or
it
the fact that
Japan?
We were an island isolated, but not too isolated from continental Europe, with
Or
access to
Germany.
multiple naval trade
Could
routes
be
that
one
we
of those. I don't
dominated
know.
and protected.
Or South
Now,
Korea.
this is where I usually take my triple shot espresso break, and Noah fills in for the rest of the segment. However, since I'm here in the UK, I guess I'll have to switch things up and do an English breakfast tea break.
Coming right up. Here you go, take this.
Oh, wow, this is a thing that you guys do.
Oh, yeah.
Sugar?
Can't forget the biscuits.
You're getting that much. Okay. I mean, it's
And the
not bad, it's
crackers.
good, but like, is there any way to make it stronger?
It's as strong as it needs to be. drinking it. I'll try some.
Should be.
I don't
illegal,
hate it as
man.
much as I should.
Be illegal.
You don't hate it as much as... Yes! America and the UK join forces!
All right, the UK. Let's get to it.
Oh, he's still here?
So historically,
Filmed
many
this
of the
at, like,
parts that
1
made up
a.m..
the UK followed
That's
some
crazy.
brutal and ineffective
I filmed this
economic
at
practices. For example, people were expected to stay and work
3:44,
in their home
guys.
parishes, even if there was no work. Those that wandered
3:44.
off to find work elsewhere were deemed vagabonds, and if
3:44.
caught, were subject to things like whippings or being put into stocks.
I'm trying to watch
that
this
didn't
video
work
with.
out
I
so
try,
well.
but I
Eventually,
can't.
though,
But
over time,
it's
many parts
3:44
of what are
though.
now England fell
I'm
into
still
a
watching
system
this
of
video.
mercantilism, or a policy that attempted to maximize tariff exports with quotas while minimizing imports. That kind of worked, but as you know, most of the world hates tariffs, so eventually they had to drop that system in 1840. The Industrial Revolution was without a doubt a game changer that launched the UK into global dominance.
yeah, that
Things
first
like the
started
sewing
in the
machines, steam-powered
1700s.
engines, and turbines, the telegraphs revolutionized the entire manufacturing system, where now things were made by machine instead of by hand. Every region had their distinct industry and resources. Newcastle focused on shipbuilding, from Manchester, cotton, Middlesbrough, iron and steel, Scotland, wool and linen. Telegraphs could now send messages from the UK to India in hours. You could arrive to a destination in a few hours via train instead of days by horse and carriage. With this new advancement and advantage, the UK changed their strategy, becoming a hegemonic naval powerhouse while subsidizing and delegating specific regions for private trading companies to monopolize off of. For example, the Muscovy Company was in charge of trading with Russia. The East India Company took over the Indian Ocean, and the Hudson Bay Company was in charge of Canada. Granted, much of their economic activity was also riddled with labor from enslaved African peoples.
You guys
even though
remember
it
the
was
Hudson
never
Bay
recognized in
Company?
British law.
That was
Most
a
of the
good
about
company.
2.5 million people were
It was the
transported to
Walmart
Caribbean,
before
the
the
second
Walmart.
most popular destination after Brazil, to work on mostly sugar plantations between the 17th and 19th centuries. Eventually, slavery was abolished in 1807 with the Slave Trade Act. However, in practice, it still went on for over 2 more decades until the Slave Abolition Act was passed in 1833. Of course, this was a dark moment of history for the UK. Eventually, those sugar plantation islands would gain independence and form new nations like Jamaica, Barbados, and most of the Lesser Antilles islands. Overall, you can see how the story of
Belize.
industrialization
Guys, I wish I
and
went to
naval
Belize.
trade were key
I gotta go
factors.
there.
And
That's like
speaking
a-
of naval activity, you can occasionally find things like gray seals and basking sharks in the waters around the UK.
That was not
And
a
to talk
shark,
more
that was
about
a-
the wildlife. Here's
That was a
Gary
monster,
Harlow.
but Belize, I gotta go to like.
I'm back! You
like
can't
a
get
bucket
rid of me
list.
and my amazingly accurate Aussie accent. So first, let's focus on Great Britain. Today there are 14 national parks, 9 in England, 3 in Wales and 2 in Scotland. There aren't many large mammals found on the island. Today, the largest native mammal is the red deer. Most of the predators like wolves and bears were hunted to extinction centuries ago. Those bearskin caps worn by the Queen's Guard were actually made from Canadian black bear pelts.
King
As a
now,
temperate
Rose,
climate
king.
zone, reptiles are not very common. Only 3 native species of lizard exist, and all snakes except the European adder are non-venomous. The national animals of the UK all make no sense. For England, it's the lion, which is not even native to the European continent, let alone the UK. Whereas for Scotland, it's the unicorn, and Wales is the Welsh dragon, which haven't been discovered yet, but I'm on it. Most people
Come on,
will say
guys,
the
come
English
on.
bulldog is a very iconic
Stop
animal
hating.
that epitomises
Let them
the
be.
British spirit.
like
Otherwise,
the dragon,
if
I
we're
like
discussing
the-
overseas territories abroad.
I like
the
the
wildlife
flag
spectrum
of
expands to a
Wales.
wide range that includes things like flamingos and iguanas in Turks and Caicos, to elephant seals and macaroni penguins of the South Georgia and South Sandwich Islands, as they are a very popular breeding ground for various
It's like a nice
species.
island. I would like to go there, guys.
I guess that's it.
I guess I'll go back into the blackness now. I fade out. Obscurity is where I go. Where will he go next?
Thank you, Gary. Definitely not Caleb Harlow. Well, as you can see, the ocean has played a huge role in the
It looks
Eucharist
so
story,
awkward
whether
in
it be
that,
the
like,
naval trading
white
routes or the
pictures,
fishing
like,
industry.
freezing
To
or
talk
something,
more
I
about
don't
the food of the UK, here's one of our British geography peeps, Rob.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So it's my section now. Noah, I'm coming for you. But Britain tends to have a reputation, particularly among
Whoa,
the rest
whoa,
of Europe,
what jersey
for
was
having
that?
dull, bland
Luton
flavours.
Town, guys,
You know
Luton
what?
Town.
I'm saying that's not the case. Nah, it's
I don't
just
know
we
the
enjoy
jersey. Yeah, I
more
can't tell.
cozy food, and we do have flavour. For one, the most popular dish in Britain by
fish and
some
chips,
distance is a curry. Most
Call them
notably
fries,
is the
chips.
chicken tikka masala, which wasn't even invented in India, claimed to be invented by a Pakistani in Glasgow. The dish we're most particularly proud of has to be the full English. You know, your breakfast, the eggs, your bean, bacon, sausage, black pudding, shredded tomatoes, and mushrooms. Otherwise, some of the top
Dude, that
dishes you
looks
might encounter on a
packed.
visit to the UK are things like
All
Yorkshire
them look like
pudding, bangers,
mushrooms,
and
bro. I
mash,
hate
Marmite.
mushrooms.
But if you do put it on toast, you've got to put it lightly. You can't overdo it. Lancashire hot pot, toad in the hole. Welsh rarebit. Cornish pasties, Scotch egg, beef Wellington, shepherd's pie, steak and kidney pie, pie and mash with jellied eels, which is an East
use a
London
beef
hoppy
Wellington right
delicacy.
now.
We love our meat pies.
Something that
And
wakes
of
me up
course,
right
you
now,
cannot
guys.
visit the UK without having our most famous
Fish and
dish, fish and
chips.
chip. Whitby is known for having some of the best fish and chips in the country. For dessert, you might want to try something like a Eton mess, Bakewell tart, sticky toffee pudding, trifle, and so much more. I hope you guys come and have a bite. See you in the UK. Look out for Rob Peters.
Thank you, Rob.
Hey, Noah, he said he's coming for you. What do you say to that?
We'll see. Well, that's all I got for you all today. I will catch you on the next one. Back to you, Barbs and Jay.
Thank you. That was
The
awesome. You
United
did a great
States.
job.
We just had a
It's
whole
Estados
section
Unidos,
about
let's
British
go.
food, and you didn't mention crumpets.
Oh.
I'll get you a crumpet. Hang on.
Oh,
Or is it
okay.
the United
This is a
Arab
crumpet.
Emirates?
Is that
Oh, that
butter?
already aired. Guys.
I like butter. I approve.
Guys.
Demographics, okay.
It
No.
literally aired. That's so goofy, guys. What is a Brit person
Question is,
from
what
the
does it mean
UK?
to be British? Simply beans on toast.
So like
British person
media
is,
production
Greg
students,
Sausage
like
Roll,
an ad.
knowing the difference
We'll be
between
right back
chicken
after these
nandos and
messages
spoons.
created by media
Welcome
production
to Wales.
students.
Hey! We actually are a country. We have a language. It's the rugby, the communities, and the sites, as you can see.
Braint yw cael dyn enyn Gymro. Neba chlwy arian on dy geg. Honda card on the gallon. A
I was actually speaking Welsh.
Cymru am byth.
For me, a Scottish person is someone who has broad, thick accent that is barely recognisable.
Iron Brew, The Proclaimers, Still Game, Haggis. This is our
That's a Scottish
Hill
accent.
and
The
Glen.
last one sounded like from
on a Saturday
Liverpool.
morning, and irony.
You should have a Sunday roast in a pub on Sunday.
Someone of any background, and everyone has a voice, everyone can say what they want.
Bloody brilliant at queuing.
We could be passively, aggressively polite.
Someone who loves to complain about the weather.
You complain about the weather, complain about the football, even when they win.
My thing, I think that relates to all
Oh,
British
yeah,
people is the
football.
fact that we
It's
created all these
always
sports
raining,
and
bro.
yet
Look
we're so
at the
bad at all.
dark cloud, depressing
for the year 6.
weather.
Someone from the UK is very self-deprecating. We
It's
like
never
to
sunny.
take the piss.
Only once in like
licorice all sorts.
5 months
Everyone
in the
is
summer.
mixed up with different things, but it's kind of like a big family that kind of
So basically once every summer.
So what is a person from the UK? Well, I mean, that question already in itself kind of has a little bit of a title dilemma in it. Sometimes it's hard to even give a demonym for the people living here, and for many of the people, and depending on the area, the title British might not even be considered applicable.
Yeah, Scottish and Welsh people will typically tell you that they are Scottish and Welsh first. People on the Isle of Man are Manx, and all those penguins in South Georgia are... But for what it's worth, there's so much that goes into the concept of identity. When you break down the typical person that comes from the UK, it's not an easy question to answer.
But what we can
English.
attempt to break
They're
down is
English.
the ethnic makeup of the country in the demographics graph. Henceforth, let's do it.
For one, the UK has just over 68 million people, and as of 2023, it's estimated to now have the third largest population in Europe, just surpassing France. When it comes to ethnic makeup, it's a
Look at
little
that.
complicated to come by, but according to the most recent data from the Office of National Statistics, it is reported that the largest group are the white British peoples, at somewhere around 87% of the country. This category is pretty broad, however. The office designates white into
English,
subgroups
Scottish,
of white British, which includes Scottish and Welsh,
Welsh.
Irish traveler, and whites of other nationalities. The remaining 13-ish percent
Irish
are made up of
traveler.
other non-white ethnic backgrounds, the
Is that
largest
like
being
someone
Asian
from,
British
like,
peoples at somewhere
Northern
around
Ireland?
7% of the country. The majority come from South Asian countries like India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. About 3% are black British, mostly from Caribbean and West African backgrounds, and around 2% identify as ethnically mixed individuals, and around 1% identify with other groups.
The UK uses the Type G plug outlet, and they drive on the left side of the road, and fun fact, it's because of the jousting thing, I believe?
Sort of. So no one really knows why, but one theory is that when medieval jousting happened, used to hold a sword in your right hand, so it made sense to pass on the left.
The majority of the UK uses the British pound sterling as its currency.
Driving
sometimes
on the
called
right
quid.
side.
That's right.
Guys.
Except in certain overseas territories, they may use other regional currencies. And that brings us to another quirky aspect of the UK, units of
Easier,
measurement.
it's
So
cheap.
the UK was, of course, the birthplace of the famous imperial system. However, over the past few decades, the UK has been begrudgingly transitioning partially to metric.
And the choice of units to use is absolutely
Metric.
insane. For example,
They're
speed,
going
miles per hour.
American,
temperature,
guys.
Centigrade.
for weight,
If the subject is a person, you can use stone or pounds, but everything else kilos and grams.
for distance,
If it's long distance, like on the road, we use miles, unless if you're running, then it's kilometers, but if measuring a person, use feet and inches. Any other object, though, meters and centimeters.
for volume,
Liters and milliliters, unless it's beer or milk when we use pints, but only cow's milk, not plant milk, in which case they use pints, but pints that are a little bigger than American pints. Yeah, that's a thing.
that's
It's going
a
too
thing.
fast,
Although
bro.
there's
You're going
technically
too
no
fast. Let me
official language,
comprehend
the country's
all
de facto
this.
national language is, of course, English.
Especially when
Technically
it's
modern English, which is incredibly
3:54
different from Old
a.m.,
English.
guys.
And during the 16th century, Shakespearean times, an early version of the modern style of English we know today started to evolve.
Thank you, Shakespeare.
And this, of course, brings us to the famous British versus American
Thank you.
English scenario.
The spelling subtleties
I
are
will
minor.
never forget you
Brits
writing
tend to
those
spell words
stories
that are more
so
similar
that
to
the
their Latin
brilliant
and Germanic
English
origins,
one
whereas
of
American
ninth
spell
grade
things more
freshman year,
phonetically.
Jason.
Otherwise, some words are just completely
That
different,
was
such as
thriving
apartment,
with
flat, fries,
Romeo
chips,
and
chips,
Juliet.
Crisps,
truck,
lorry,
gas,
petrol,
cookie,
biscuit,
trash can,
rubbish bin,
yard,
garden,
sidewalk,
pavement,
pavement,
road surface,
candy,
sweets,
faucet,
tap,
spigot,
tap,
flashlight,
torch,
oatmeal.
porridge.
But I do admit I like porridge better because it reminds me of fairy tales from childhood.
I know, just try saying the word
Cannot
porridge and not being just a
sound
little bit more
studious,
happy.
guys.
Porridge,
Come
it's
on.
like the Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Porridge.
And don't even get me started on the accents. In fact, it's speculated that the UK has the largest
Yeah,
variation of accents in a
Birmingham,
single language of any country in the world.
Liverpool.
Somewhere around 40 to 50, I believe.
It is nuts. Like, if you think about just how small our islands are, and yet the accents have remained really resilient. The two cities of Liverpool and Manchester, only 30 miles apart, they sound completely different.
Otherwise, the UK also has regionally recognized native Celtic-based minority languages.
For example, Cornish is spoken in Cornwall by about 4 people, and Scottish Gaelic is spoken in
4
Scotland,
people.
and by far the biggest of these surviving Celtic languages is Welsh.
There are even Welsh TV channels and shows, radio stations, and almost all road signs are posted in Welsh and
that.
English in Wales.
Each of these languages play a vital role to the cultures of their respective communities.
Religion! Now, this is an interesting one because for most of the UK's history, there's always
Catholic
been kind of like a
versus
confrontation
Protestant.
when it came to religious affairs and leadership.
The
After the
English
Church of England renounced
Reformation.
papal authority from the Catholic Church in 1534, things got tricky. It was kind of like,
Oh heavens, our dear monarch doth died. Who shalt beeth next in line? If.
It's insert name of next to kin. But here's the problem. They're Catholic.
Jolly toddlywonkles, no!
Let's burn things. That seemed to solve problems.
Burn!
And that's like how 28% of their domestic wars started.
in any case, the country is technically a Christian country. Actually,
Let's
technically,
go. I
the
miss
other
religion
crown
wars,
gets the power
guys.
from God,
We
long
should bring
story,
back
and
religion
a majority
wars
of
in
them hold
Europe.
religion to more of a traditional
then
role. Most of
AP
reserved for
Euro
national festivals, traditions,
Could
and
be
even schools and
taught
politics.
in the
With all
college
that said and
board.
done, it's very
The
important
college
to
board
also
can
highlight
teach
the immigrant
that
and
in AP
non-European
Euro.
communities that make up a
That's
very
what I
notable
was
demographic of
trying
the
to
UK
talk
as
about.
well.
The black community dates back to the 17th century
tired,
when
man.
attendants and
I'm
servants
tired.
were brought
I
over,
wanna go
such
to
as
bed.
John Blank during the Tudor dynasty, who was paid £16 a day for his trumpeting skill. Most of the enslaved black people were brought to the Caribbean, not Great Britain. So the black British community stayed relatively small and was mostly confined to Liverpool. It wasn't until the mid-20th century when communities from the Caribbean and West Africa started to set up communities over here.
The UK also has the oldest Chinese community in Europe, arriving in the 19th
They got a
century, followed by
Chinatown?
other Asian groups like Indians and Arabs.
Basically, no matter who you are or what you are, everyone born and raised in the UK will have a common understanding of a certain set of values and customs unique to the UK. For one, the schooling system.
Oh, this is a weird one.
Yeah, so you might have got hints of what it's like from the Harry Potter films and books. Uniforms are worn not only to show school identity, but also to foster a sense of unity and equality.
And you can't make fun of the kids that wear
No,
bad
bro.
clothes because
Unity,
it's like they're all
bro.
wearing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just,
nobody
yeah,
can-
it's just
well,
the
it's
same
just
thing. Like,
Also,
what
like-
unity are you getting?
Not on clothes.
Education is
It's
a
just a
huge
copy
part of
and
our
paste
culture.
of everyone.
English,
It's like a
maths,
bunch
that's
of
right,
NPCs.
maths, not
You,
maths.
you say maths.
You say maths.
Not mathematics.
And science and even physical education are compulsory subjects for every stage until the GCSE exams, and compulsory education ends at age 18.
Yeah, and you have that college is
assuming
another
that's
thing you
the
guys have, but it's
ACT.
like
Well, right, so the
Yeah.
word college is for older children, it's for teenagers who've chosen to study something very specific.
yes, yeah. That's
Whereas in America, it's just you call college what we call university.
It's where we get wasted because we're saying we're studying, but we're not. Another unique trait of the UK's social atmosphere is the fact that
So
since
this
it is
was
a
this guy's
constitutional monarchy,
Barb's
much of the country has a deep tie
college
to the
year.
traditions related to
He went to
said monarchy.
USC
The inner
in
core
Los
of the royal
Angeles,
family
and
today
he's
has
like,
about 50 or so members
"Yeah, I
that
don't
are
like
either
this, let me
descended
just
or married into
do
the House of
drunk
Windsor.
stuff."
Only about half of them actually
And
carry
then
out royal
this is how
duties,
geography now is made.
diplomatic missions,
Assuming
being the face.
Assuming, guys.
Whatever you want to make of that.
Not saying
Outside
this
of the
is true,
royal
this is
family,
just
of course, many
me being
noblemen
dumb.
were appointed leadership roles over certain areas, and today you can still even find many people that are descended from these lesser-ranked individuals that had ties to the monarchs.
Well, you can, but you have to go to the very posh public schools, which, by the way, is not usually what you call private schools.
nobles.
Right. You're likely to run into people who say, oh, I'm actually 718th in line to the throne because my third father once removed was the 13th Duke and Duchess of Wyndham. Sometimes you'll find heirs to the throne where you least expect it. For example, did you know that Olympian Zara Phillips is the Queen's granddaughter?
No, I did not know that. But we can learn more about the sports
Sport.
of the UK with art,
Sport.
with the sports part.
Sport part.
The sport part.
All right, guys, I'm back. Let's get
Soccer.
athletic. And the
Let's
UK
get ready.
is quite the contender. They have
EFL.
nearly 1,000 medals in the Olympics, and nearly 300 of which are gold. The UK is the father of many types of sports. Rugby, cricket, yes, even soccer or football. And hey, for all you Brits that are
Football.
criticizing
I hate
us
you when you
Americans
say
for calling it
football.
soccer, we got the word from you. You invented it. It came
Oh,
from the word
he's using that.
association football. So it's kind of your fault. Although the concept of playing a game where you kick a ball around has been around since the ancient times, the modern version of what we call football was started in the UK in the 19th century using inflated pig bladders. I wonder how they got started with that. They're just like, they're eating some bacon and then they're like, oh, that looks kind of inflatable, you know?
No, I
So
hate
far,
you.
England has won one
And it's
World
probably
Cup in
slushy and it's
1966
gushing.
against West Germany.
If
And
it's
it
not
was
dry
an
enough, then
iconic old
it's still
Wembley
blood.
Stadium that has since been torn down due to infrastructure problems, and it was buried under a huge grass mound. Also, the trophy was stolen, but found
Really?
by Pickles the dog.
I thought it was just
Story.
built
Either
on
way,
top of
football
the
is
new
such a
Wembley
huge part
Stadium.
of the UK's identity, and they could talk about it forever. They even have a subculture of hooligans, or the obnoxious football fans that like always get drunk and start fights and beat each other up. It's almost like a whole other sport itself. And
Every
it's equally
single,
entertaining
like,
to watch, like drunken MMA.
I don't know.
Right? Yeah.
Man
Otherwise,
City.
the modern form of
No,
rugby
Man
or rugby
United.
union was
Man
invented
City.
in the town of Rugby.
Don't get me
where
wrong.
It got its name from. However,
There's
many will
some
say
Man
rugby
City
is
fans that have been
actually
fans
descended
for
from the
years,
Welsh
but
game Knappen, which is why
half of
today
them are
some of
just
the best
fans
rugby
because of
players
the
come
oil
from Wales,
stuff.
and it is a huge part of their national identity. Cricket was invented in South England in the 1500s and is one of the most long-winded sports that can last days to finish. Scotland is also a hub of inventing sports. The modern
wish I could
version
get
of golf
into cricket,
was
but-
also started in Scotland in the 16th
No,
century.
I'm American,
and
bro.
water
Nobody
polo
plays
in the
over here.
19th century. Scotland is also most noted for their Highland Games, where a bunch of people in kilts compete in a series of strength-based events, like the caber toss, Scottish hammer throw, and the weight over bar toss. Oh, by the way, I did a DNA test, came back 48% Scottish.
Thought you were Polish.
Yeah, so a lot less Polish than what I thought.
What? I mean, it makes sense though.
They'll take me in.
It makes sense, the gingery.
The ginge. I'm Scottish. I should have known. In Northern Ireland, it's not uncommon to see Gaelic
Nah,
football and
then he would
hurling
be
being
Irish,
native to the
because
island. The UK
Irish
is also
are
known
associated
for their
with
weird and
redheads,
wacky
guys.
sports and
That
competitions
goofy
people loving taking
joke.
part in, such as the Cooper Hill
Everyone
cheese
likes.
rolling race thing, tar barrel racing, toe wrestling, shin kicking. Let's do that one.
We'll do it after this.
Pancake racing, the
Shin-kicking.
stinging nettle eating contest. Yeah, I used to get stung by those things all the time when I was a kid. Like I
Oh,
cannot
that sounds
imagine eating those.
painful and
Gravy
absolutely a
wrestling.
disaster.
These are weird. They even have a gurning contest, which is where, like, in order to win, you have to make like the ugliest face possible, like this. In any case, that's all I got for you. Cheerio, Toodle
What's wrong
Pop,
with this
jolly
guy?
good, crumbly wrinkles, old chap, and
No, you could've
whatever.
just-
I'm gonna get the. This ginger's gonna skedaddle out of here.
We're gonna just
Toodaloo.
said jolly good show, man. Like pops
Thank
or
you, Art.
whatever.
Jay, what are some just of the biggest, most notable traditions you've experienced living here?
The day after Christmas, we call it Boxing Day, the 26th
Boxing
of December.
Day.
It's an extension of the holiday,
Okay.
so you get yet another
Premier
day off work,
League.
and there's also a lot of football going on and lots of great stuff on the telly.
I thought that was a day
Yeah,
we could each other 'cause
Premier
we're fighting
League.
over cheap prices at the grocery stores.
But actually, fun fact, the reason it's called Boxing,
Boxing
Day,
Day.
is
Barb's was kind of right. Originally, it was supposed to be about giving gifts to the poor, but now it's about getting half-off deals at the mall.
Yeah, Boxing Day. Okay, well, good way to transition into the culture of the UK. And with that, let's bring it to our homegirl, Hannah, with the culture segment.
Hey guys, I'm back. Well, actually now, we're back. If you don't get it, I'm pregnant.
Hannah did a thing.
And Ian, he was there too. Okay, this is gonna be a heavy one because
guys,
with the
come
UK,
on.
it's almost like you're
And
getting
come on,
an
guys. I
economy-sized
learned this from my
multi-package
intro
deal,
to
culture,
audio
and tradition.
tech
For one,
class.
you must
You're supposed to
distinguish
put the
between whether
mic
someone is from
in
England, Scotland, Wales,
under
Northern
the
Ireland,
shirt
the
and
overseas
out right
territories,
there,
or
just
Crown
like what
dependencies.
Barb's and
To
that
break it
guy
down a
was
little
doing.
easier, you have
I already
the
forgot his
Celtic
name, but
areas,
he's been
and
with
then you
me
have the
since
English
36
Saxon side.
minutes.
So let's start with a quick
I feel
overview
bad, but
of Scotland. Cultural rule number 1: do
It is
not
what it
attempt the
is.
accent. Even if you think you're good at it, just don't. You're not good at it.
That was so bad.
Historically, Scotland was divided by clans, each with their own territory. Each clan
No,
even
but
had
like,
their own plaid
sometimes when I
design.
do my
And Scottish
Eagles
last
and
names often
stuff,
have a
I'll
map
do that
before
microphone
it. Some
stuff, but
very
I'll just zoom
notable
it in like a
cultural
close up.
aspects you will probably encounter at some
You learn
point
something new every day, guys.
Haley dances, bagpipes. January 25th is a huge deal where they celebrate Burns Night. New Year's Eve is called Hogmanay, fireball swinging, and the first person to enter the household is considered the bringer of good luck. And the iconic New Year's song, Old Lang Syne. You know that song. Old Lang Syne. Who knew that's what they were saying? I was just making words
that
up.
didn't really
Also,
help, to be
everyone in
honest.
Scotland will tell you to try a deep
I was trying
fried
to
Mars
think of
bar.
that song,
Is
but
now Wales. Wales is a
3
unique
a.m.
and
and I
very
don't
underrated
understand.
place. It is the
Tired.
land of song, poetry, but at the same time, hardcore rugby, shin-kicking dragons, and powerful castles. In Wales, the daffodil is a symbol used for women and the leek used for men. Typical emblems of the daffodil or leek are worn on St. David's Day, where people clean their rooms and are nice to one another. Are they not nice other days? You get one day a year to be nice. And speaking of which, love spoons. In Wales, traditionally, a man would carve a spoon and give it to the woman he
What kind of
loves.
spoon
they
is
have
that?
the Mari Lloyd celebration,
Looks
where they
difficult
put
to-
a horse's skull on a pole. The Don's gum
I'm
ride, the
just saying.
Ested Fod is a
This looks
huge
very
deal.
difficult
Every
to
Welsh
adjust
person
the
will
spoon.
bring up Tom Jones.
Oh yeah, where's the Beatles,
Moving
guys?
on to Northern Ireland. This is a
Guys, where's the
complicated
Beatles?
one because it's
We are
kind of
40
like
minutes,
if the UK
almost
and
40 minutes in
Ireland
this
had a
video, and I
confusing
have not
baby
heard the
that had an
Beatles.
identity crisis. Avoiding all the complicated politics that go into this one. This area obviously has a more Irish Celtic influence and has a mix of Protestant Catholic peoples. This is the only
Guys,
place
I have
that
not
allows
heard
people
about
to freely
the
choose to have either
Irish
one or both
Rebellion in the
citizenship of either the UK
1920s.
or Ireland. Keep in mind, this is not the official flag of Northern Ireland. Just watch the show Dairy Girl.
Really?
It does a great job at covering the general idea of what Northern Ireland was
Nah,
like,
how about we have
especially
a
at the
part
end
2
of
of the
conflict
UK?
era. England.
Talk about the
It is in
Beatles,
itself super complicated
and then talk
and
about
culturally diverse. It is
Irish
home to
Rebellion.
the monarchy, which is a vital aspect of their identity. Keep in mind, although certain individuals can be knighted for their accomplishments, it is only a recognition, not an inclusion into royalty. Generally speaking, English regional cultures are mostly Anglo-Saxon
Well,
based.
I'ma try to
and
get there.
concentrated in
I'ma
six
try to get the
areas.
sword.
Speaking of which, England has the widest range of classical architecture. You can find people living in Tudor-style half-timber thatched roofed homes next to Victorian, next to Georgian, next to Art Deco, all in the same block. Also, the UK loves to give
man.
regional nicknames to people. Liverpool people, Scouse. Birmingham are Broomies. Manchester is Mank. Newcastle is Geordie. Sunderland is Mackin. Devon and Plymouth folk are Janners.
Geordie.
East Londoners are Cockney, and they speak in a weird codified language. Much of what might be considered English
Isn't then,
culture
like,
was split
South
off by
London,
the
like, the
English
bad
Renaissance.
area?
The era created some of the most renowned authors and playwrights, most notable, the man himself, William Shakespeare. As a nation, the UK was the
William
home of many
Shakespeare.
inventions and discoveries. Way too many people to mention. We'll just pop up a list here. Cinema has always been a huge part of UK culture and has been contributing to the world since 1888, when the first motion picture in the world was shot in Leeds by Louis Le Prince.
Hey, Louis Le Prince was not British, he was French.
I know, I'm just saying he made his motion picture in the UK.
What kind of
Anywho, the fact that
skit
the
is this?
American version of The Office was inspired by the UK version of The Office, and that is one of our most well-renowned television shows, is amazing. I mean, it's one of my favorite TV shows of all time.
Honestly, I think we did better though, come on.
The
Kevin Malone,
Office.
best character.
Kevin Malone,
Dude.
our version of Dwight is way better than y'all's. I'm so sorry.
That is
He
true.
really is. In any case, the territories
Aw,
and crown
man.
dependencies
The
all
British-
have their own unique traits
the
as
British
well.
are getting
Jersey and
dunked on
Guernsey
again.
and the Isle of Man each each have their own languages and confusing political systems. In Gibraltar, people speak Llanito. The Pitcairn Islands has a Polynesian Creole
Llanito.
called Pitcairn.
Still
Turks
like
and
a
Caicos
Spanish,
has a Caribbean
English,
House Evolution
Creole.
boat party, and the Cayman Islands have an entire week dedicated to pirates. Well, that
Pirate
was a
Week.
lot, and we didn't even cover a small fraction of everything that could be discussed with the UK
Oh my
culture.
God, did
And
you
of
see me?
course,
I look
one
bad.
huge facet
No.
of UK culture is their music. And with that, Keith is on tour. Can't leave his dream job to be here. Ugh. So let's give this segment to a British musician. Guys, say hi to David.
And we got David here. Explain who you are. Introduce yourself.
I'm a music nerd from the UK, and I have a channel called David Bennett Piano. Britain has always had a rich musical culture.
Oh.
We had the Elizabethan
This is
lute music of John
interesting.
Dowland, the grand
And
folk
are we gonna
music of
hear the
Hampden,
Beatles,
and at
guys?
start of
The
20th
Beatles.
century, we had two of Britain's most influential composers, Gustav Holst
They
and
were
Edward Elgar.
the
But it wasn't really
renaissance
until the
of
1960s
rock and
that
roll,
British
guys.
music became the global cultural export that it is today.
Oh.
Of course, I'm talking about the British invasion, where bands such as the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Animals, and of course
Oh.
the Beatles took the world by storm.
Oh,
Since
it's
that invasion, the UK
back.
has
It's the
continued to
Beatles.
contribute to global popular music. Many genres of music can trace their origins.
I'm not
back
really
to
a
the
big
UK.
Beatles
Heavy
fan, by
metal,
the
for
way.
example, was
So,
pioneered in the early 70s.
I don't
by
know
the
why
likes
I
of
was
Black
hyping up
Sabbath,
the
Led
Beatles the
Zeppelin, and
entire
Deep
time.
Purple, and many of prog rock's
Look
most
at that, all
iconic
the
bands
JoJo
hail from
references,
UK,
the
including
stands.
Pink Floyd, Yes, and Genesis. Highly successful artists have hailed from every corner of the UK. The most famous Welsh musician is probably Sir Tom Jones. Northern Ireland has Van Morrison, and Scotland's most successful musician is probably Calvin Harris. Britain has always had a strong
Where's Tom
history
Mish?
of folk music as well.
He should be
particularly in
here.
Scotland, where Gaelic language music is still very popular.
He
with
should have been
artists
the
like
rock and
Julian
roll
Ellis
guy
in
today.
the tradition today. Queen, David
kinda
Bowie,
does look like
George
Tom
Michael,
Mish, to be
Kate
honest.
Bush, Oasis, Elton John, Radiohead, Muse, Coldplay, the Spice Girls, Ed Sheeran, Adele. Ever since that British invasion in the 1960s, the UK has not stopped churning out culture-defining music, and I'm sure it will play a major part in popular music for decades to come.
Thank you, David. Actually, guys, if you didn't know, Jay is a musician. You make music as well.
Sometimes.
What are some of your biggest inspirations in music?
Is it really, really boring and dull and uninteresting if I say that my favourite band is the Beatles?
Oh, come on.
Sorry.
Basic! Well, we covered so much in this segment. Jay, what else can we talk about in this episode?
Shall we do the friend zone?
Let's go, friend zone.
So obviously, the UK has a lot of diversity, and of course, it's due to their history.
As you can see, Britain has had a fair few dealings with other countries around the world, which brings us to
the animation, the motion graphic.
First of all, as a permanent member of the UN Security Council and founding member of numerous IGOs, such as the G7, NATO, World Trade Organization, and Council of Europe, the UK has lots of international ties. Although the Brexit situation did cut them off from EU authority, many of the diplomatic laws and trade deals with the EU are almost exactly the same as they were pre-Brexit, and today the interaction is still there.
It's like,
and
what's the
open.
point
It's
of
just a little
leaving the
different when it
EU?
comes to certain
I'm still
legislative
wondering
issues like
about that.
immigration and economic policy. This is a topic for another time. In any case, the UK has spent the last 100 years coming to
Yeah,
terms
but
with
I
the fact
feel like
that
they
were
should
pretty
go
much seen
back
as
to
the
the
antagonist
EU.
in so many independent stories
Just
across
saying.
the world. Even though the empire has gone, its influence is still strongly felt around the world, with lots of other countries speaking English, playing cricket, having similar-ish systems of government, and so on. Many of these countries are members of the Commonwealth of Nations, and the monarch is still, at least in a
Canada,
figurehead sense, the
India,
head of state of many of them. The UK still has very close
Australia,
relations to the
Belize.
Commonwealth countries, with many of these people settling in the UK, most notably some of the largest diaspora communities from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Ghana, and the Caribbean. The UK, or England in particular, had a massive rivalry with France riddled with war for much of their history. For the last century though, especially after World War II, they've done a complete 180 and have found themselves on the same team in almost all global
that.
conflicts, and each side loves to poke
If that's
fun but
not
in a loving way at each other. Interestingly
true
enough, the country they probably have the most in
enemies
common
but
with,
friends
Ireland,
now,
has had
I
quite a
don't
few
know what it
scuffles
is.
and conflict, especially before the Good Friday Agreement was
Uh.
signed in 1998. Today, however, you can't deny that the citizens of both countries enjoy an extremely close relationship. Many British people have Irish heritage, they intermarry quite a bit, and many have dual citizenship. Australia and Spain have the largest communities of British national residents living abroad. Australia has always been a hotbed destination for immigration for Brits seeking the warmer climate, and specifically for Spain, Ibiza is almost like a little Britain, as so many British people either go there on holiday or to move. In terms of their
I feel
best
like that was
friends, however,
the
many in the UK would probably say the
Simon
USA,
Holiday,
and maybe some might include Canada. The biggest difference is between the two is that
versus
the USA gained full
$1,000
independence through
trip.
revolution, whereas Canada just kind of stayed British until they slowly over time requested to be given more and more autonomy until technically 1982 when they adopted their own constitution, but still remained under the Commonwealth. It wasn't even long after the Revolutionary War that the UK and USA quickly patched things up, having a shared language and today a population with about 11% 99% of its people ethnically descended from British roots, has not only further helped them communicate and relate culturally, but eventually they've joined in almost all major international conflicts since the mid-19th century. Today they swap each other's films, TV shows, music, and so on. And in Europe, anything USA related will typically have some kind of connection to the UK, as they kind of act as like the link between North America and Europe. Overall, the USA and UK may have started sour, but today they have never been closer.
All right, and with that, in conclusion, Jay, you are the Brit. I'm going to give this to you.
In conclusion, sorry about the Empire, but basically Britain is now finding its role as a modern, progressive country that hopes to leave a good mark on the world. This flag actually makes me realize that when Brits go abroad, even though we like to claim that we're not very patriotic, you know, we go abroad and it turns out, yes, we really are. And we really care and we really do love our country. And they hate when people fly their flag upside down!
Isn't also backwards? Everything's wrong. Well, Jay, I think there was nobody better than you to be in this episode and to co-host with me. Guys, I guess that means stay tuned. The home country, USA, is coming up next. Good luck.
Oh, big one, man. If this is 50 minutes, the next one's an hour and a half. Guys, we did it, guys. We made it. We learned a lot. This is like an AP test. You, like, learned so much and you used it. It's cramped. It's like an AP class all in 1 hour. This is me, guys. This is like an AP test review. My legs hurt. I can't feel nothing. I'm tired. I think it's starting to get bright. So I'm gonna hurry up and edit this before it gets super bright, and then I get mad and sad because it's bright, and then I can't sleep. So we did it, guys. We did the challenge. We watched 50 minutes of Geography Now, and we learned a lot about the United Kingdom. So guys, please leave a like and subscribe. If you made it this far, how can you watch 50 minutes of me? It is just impossible. But if you did, thank you. I appreciate you. Comment, bro. Just comment on the thing, and if you said you watched 50 minutes, I'm gonna give you a hug. I'll give you money. I don't know. I'll do something. There's no way you watch 50 minutes of me. So anyways, that's about it. It's been your boy Jason. See you guys next time.